Hello Intimates, it's Monday. I just went to the Mesopotamia exhibition at the Melbourne Museum and now you get to hear all about that. For anyone who doesn't quite know what it's all about, Mesopotamia was the area in what is now modern day Iraq, and it covered the area which was Babylon and Assyria and that sort of area. It's always really interesting going to these exhibitions. I mean, they did Tutankhamun. I've also seen the Chinese terracotta warriors, and I find it really interesting when you go and see these different exhibitions. There's often a lot of similarity between these cultures that were so far apart, both in distance and in time. You look at a lot of ancient civilizations and they've all got all these various gods they worship and all these elaborate burial ceremonies, and even just simple things like that. There's always a certain amount of continuity between them, even though they're quite different. And I did find it really interesting. You go and you look and there are so many things that have carried through from 3000 to 2000 BC, things that still affect us today, things that have had an influence on our society in 2012, whereas our counting system today is based on 10, theirs was based on 60. And then you look at things, and although most of our counting system is based on 10, our clocks and that, they're obviously based on the system of 60. So you look at things like that and it might not be things that are immediately obvious, but they still do have an influence. So I just found it really interesting, the amount of influence it's had. And it just made me think, I mean, we're here in 2012, what are we going to be remembered for? They were talking about the writing in their culture because it's the earliest recorded written language. We were looking at pieces of writing that were people learning to write. It was their homework as they were learning to write. And I suppose with how connected everything in the world today is, it's unlikely we're going to end up with, you know, sort of great ruins of ancient civilizations like we have today. We're much more connected, so I don't know if that'll happen again in the future, but all the same, society will change, things will move forward, everything's going to develop. It constantly is. There's no stopping it, there's no denying it. But even if we don't have sort of this great mystery attached to us, sort of in the way that maybe ancient Egypt or something does, society's still going to move forward, and Melbourne, Australia, the world in 2012 isn't going to remain the same in another 100,000 or million years. So even if people do still know what it is that we were up to in 2012, I suppose I just always wonder what it is that we're going to be remembered for. Because although history is being much better preserved today than it has been in the past, I suppose at some stage in the future it's inevitable that we'll just be another example of the society of the past and what things used to be. And sure, our records will be better preserved and people will probably have a better idea of what it was we were up to, but all the same we'll just be a past society. And it just makes me curious as to what it is that this society will be remembered for. So anyway, this has been Jen's vaguely philosophical ramblings of Monday-ish. Maddie, I will see you tomorrow.